Now the fight for the Liberal leadership is getting nasty. It's been shaping up as a battle between Sussan Ley and Angus Taylor. Let's bring in Trudy McIntosh now. Trudy, we've seen, you and I have been working on this in the last half an hour, and now claims that the deputy leader, Sussan Ley, undermined Peter Dutton and Angus Taylor during the campaign.
Yeah, clearly the Angus Taylor camp, Laura, is unhappy with what was put out there yesterday. They believe from Sussan Ley's camp that Angus Taylor was considering not running, citing his family, that a Taylor camp source saying, of course, every politician would consider their family and question why they'd want to put them through this. But clearly the Taylor camp wants to point out some of the flaws they think in the deputy leader's record, running through quite the lengthy list, I'd have to say, briefing it out against Sussan Ley, saying despite the fact that she had a biggest staffing allocation in opposition, she failed to prosecute key policies in their word, that she only put forward 2 policies, they say, when it comes to industry. They also attack her skills policy, say there wasn't enough to sell for Peter Dutton and the team when they were going around marginal electorates. Also critical of the Coalition's women's policy and saying that that wasn't enough in terms of, quote, economic empowerment for women as well. It's clear that this leadership race is on for young and old. The Sussan Ley camp yesterday undermining Angus Taylor's economic management record. They claim that it was Angus Taylor and Jane Hume in that budget lockup when Jim Chalmers was handing down the budget before the election, those two deciding on the spot to oppose the Labor tax cuts. The claim from the Sussan Ley camp is that she personally didn't want to see that opposed, that would undermine the central argument the Coalition has used for a long time, that they are the party of lower taxes. So at this stage, not clear, I would say, who is the front runner between Angus Taylor and Sussan Ley. There's also been this argument, Laura, about the need for a shift to a female leader within the Coalition. I've heard that put to me, the claim that when they overlooked Julie Bishop, she was the deputy, a loyal one at the time to Malcolm Turnbull, that when she was overlooked for Scott Morrison, that hurt the Liberal Party's brand. Trying to make the comparison, it would hurt this time around to overlook a deputy as well. But as we've seen in this reporting, the Taylor camp claims that Sussan Ley had undermined Peter Dutton and his economic team, they claim, for the last 6 months prior to the election. So there is going to be a lot of back and forth, all being litigated via the media. No one at this stage willing to actually put their name and face to this and actually say it publicly on the record.
No, and there's a lot of jostling going on. There's a lot of consternation about what to do in a policy sense as well, and who is the next best person to take on the leadership. The next person that takes on the leadership is unlikely to become Prime Minister, of course. So is it a consensus candidate? Is it someone that can just unite the party? Or is it someone like Angus Taylor with a ticket of Jane Hume? Because they were, yes, part of this team that lost so comprehensively, but is it then part of their job to help do the rebuilding? So there's different schools of thought there. We're about to hear from Tim Wilson at 11 o'clock, who might just throw his hat in the ring for the leadership as well. Dan Tehan still in the mix, of course. But the other thing to point out to anyone who's considering being leader is that why wouldn't they carefully consider? Because families are involved in politics as much as individuals want to keep them out of it. This does take a heavy toll on people. And again, you've got to remember that they are spending half their lives in Canberra. It's a big commitment for a family, so they do need to be consulted. Trudy, when are we likely to actually seek some kind of vote, some kind of meeting? Still a couple of weeks away, or could it be sooner?
Yeah, the latest I've heard, Laura, is that it definitely wouldn't be this week, potentially into next week or the week after. And one of the reasons why is because of the much smaller size of the party room. Every single vote is going to matter here. And as Tom Connell was just pointing out, there is a chance they pick up a few more seats, the Liberal Party, and that is actually potentially critical in swaying the numbers of who actually would have a majority within the Liberal Party room. Even as we're going to air it, Laura, I'm getting texts from within the camps pointing out things about the other side. They are emphatic in the Taylor camp that Sussan Ley was part of the decision to oppose the tax cuts. So the spinning from both sides continues. Her camp says that it was Angus's decision. That as you say, though, I think that school of thought, if there is a big argument to be made, if the people involved in the last campaign, if they know they can't win the next election, have to help rebuild. Or are we going to see the case from Tim Wilson that someone who was not there for the last 3 years is in the best position to make the case for change, generational change, and to somehow win back support of people who used to vote Liberal and have now decided to shift their vote to another party?